And back here on scenic Lake Martin, we're getting ready, BMAC and I, for Penn State versus Auburn. But boy, there's another big tilt up the road in Lincoln, Nebraska, and up the road a good ways. Scott Frost, you see him on the screen. He's no longer the head coach at the University of Nebraska. They welcome in Oklahoma this week. That line, a double-digit favorite spot for the road favored Oklahoma Sooners, and we welcome in Dennis Dodd. Big game Dennis Dodd. My uncle, not officially, but my uncle Dennis Dodd there in Lincoln. Dennis, did you think that you would be covering an interim coaching situation already in, week 3?
I did not, Josh, and I had 7.5 million reasons why I wasn't going to be covering an interim coaching situation in week 3, because as we know, Nebraska could have waited until October 1st when that $15 million buyout went down to 7.5. But I think after what happened last week against Georgia Southern, that a booster scratched a check or somebody decided we can't have this entire week be filled with Scott Frost talk, the entire Fox broadcast be filled with Scott Frost talk. We need to move on. And yes, they're getting, a jump on recruiting. They're getting in line ahead of everybody else for the new coach. But I just think it had just become untenable here for the bad vibes, if nothing else.
Dennis, you talked about a bad vibe. What type of, expectation-wise, what type of scene do you expect to see from the fans there in Lincoln, knowing that this is a home game, but they just fired Coach Frost and now they have an interim standing on the sideline?
It'll be packed, BMAC. They'll release balloons after the first touchdown. I've been going here for so long, nothing ever changes. And I was reminded last Saturday night watching that Georgia Southern game when I think fourth quarter it was tied and they're getting boat raced up and down the field. Georgia Southern is going for 642 yards and people were screaming their heads off on a potential winning touchdown drive by Nebraska. There wasn't any booing. There's never booing at Nebraska, and they will absolutely pack the place. Number one, because it's Nebraska. Number two, because it's Oklahoma. Let's not forget, from the early 70s to the late 80s, this decided the Big Eight just about every year. And when they renewed this thing last year, Joe Castiglione, the AD at Oklahoma, was so proud. He had worked with Tom Osborne to get this going after the Big 12, these schools had left the Big 12 to get it going again, that it is a different feeling. Now, they're rivals, but they're not in the same league. Oklahoma's better. Nebraska's on crutches right now. I guess that's the best way to put it. But it'll be special in some way because these two great rivals.
Dennis, where do you think this coaching search is going to go? And I'm going to throw a name out there, and you can just beat this up however you want to. Urban Meyer is going to be there with the Fox crew this Saturday. And it's a name that keeps getting mentioned, and for the life of me, I cannot buy into it because I can't see the scenario where it happens. Maybe you've got different information, but including Coach Urban Meyer there, where do you think that search is going to go?
Yeah, no, they're not going to hire Urban Meyer. He's radioactive right now to a place like Nebraska where he'd be bigger than the program. Not to say that's a bad thing. Tom Osborne was the program for all those years. But even since his last job in college, everything that's happened with the Jaguars and kicking the kicker and the scene in the bar and everything, I frankly can't believe Fox brought him back because of all the things we're talking about and all the things they're going to follow him. You know who will hire him if it comes to that? The people that you're with right now, Josh. I think Auburn's a great fit for him because I think they want him. I think he goes back in the SEC. And if things fall apart, like inevitably they will. I love Brian Harsin, but it's Auburn. And he could go 10-2 this year and 8-4 next year, and he'd be gone. He's not going to do that, I don't think. But I think that'd be, quote unquote, a great fit for him.
Well, guys, Dennis, Josh, can I stir the pot just a little bit?
Feel free.
In regards to who potentially could be the next head man in charge for the Cornhuskers? What about, drum roll please, Matt Rule? What about Matt Rule? And I understand he's currently coaching the Carolina Panthers, but I'm heavily involved in the NFL scene. They had a disappointing loss last week. They got the Giants this week, followed by the Saints, and I think they got the Cardinals, and they got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Rams. What happens if the Carolina Panthers got to a horrible start?
Yeah.
I really believe his seat is already hot, but if they get to a bad start, it's going to be a hibachi hot. And I think ideally for him, getting back to the college ranks would probably be the best situation for him. So I'm just stirring the pot just a little bit. For all our Cornhusker fans that are watching us and not knowing exactly which direction to go, Dennis said Urban Meyer's not the place to go. That's not the spot to go. But what about a guy like Matt Rule if Carolina just told him to get out of town?
Matt Rule's a great pick. He always is lately with these college jobs. Dave Aranda is still drafting off some of the players he recruited, and I'm not disparaging Dave Aranda at Baylor. I think he's a great coach. But Matt Rule has some great talent there. He's a great talent evaluator. And think about this. For the right guy, Nebraska's going to pay NFL money because in college, some of these colleges are paying more than the NFL. I keep coming back to the thing that in 1995, it took until 1995 for the first $1 million coach to come around. That was Bobby Bowden. Steve Spurrier was a year later. Since December, guys, we've had 3 coaches sign contracts worth $11 million per year. So I think that's the standard now, along with what happened with Mel Tucker. Not to say he's going to get 10 years, but I think for the right guy, and Matt Rule is that right guy. I think he'd be great, BMAC. I think they'd pay NFL money. So we're talking about $7 million on up.
Dennis, look at this Oklahoma team for just a second. I mean, they had a coaching search. It seemed like it lasted about 5 minutes. They were ready, and when Lincoln Riley stepped out, they went and they got their guy who was in the on-deck circle, and Brent Venables. We've seen him a couple of times, but this is the first time in conference play on the road. How have they struck you so far, and what do you expect from this game?
I think they've done exactly what people thought they'd do. Dylan Gabriel has been effective. Eric Gray has run the ball better than he did, I think, under Lincoln Riley. He's finally coming out in his 4th season now, the transfer from Tennessee. And you knew, Josh and BMAC, you knew the defense would be better. And it is. Not against, the greatest of competition. But I think that's what you're going to see tomorrow in Nebraska. I think you'll see Nebraska maybe held to single digits. I just told you about what a great rivalry this game is. Don't forget, nobody expected this last year. 23-16 in Lincoln when Oklahoma was a similar, double-digit prohibitive favorite, and Nebraska came in there and held them to 23 points. But I think even more important that Alex Grinch's defense held Nebraska to 16 points. I think that defense is even better now schematically under Brent Venables, if nothing else. Ted Roof is the defensive coordinator. I don't think, and I don't know this for sure, if Brent Venables is calling the plays, or very few coaches anywhere that call defensive plays. But Ted Roof is at least a game planner. But Brent Venables, to the point that I think Oklahoma, to no one's surprise, may be the favorite in the Big 12. I had Baylor at the beginning of the year. I really liked them because of the defense. We know the offense is a given. I think I might slot Oklahoma up there right now.
Yeah, I'm the same way here. I'm Oklahoma, minus the points. Also, I hate to take those double-digit favorites and unders, but I feel like it's the right side now. So I'm going to go Sooners. I'm going to go under as well.
Well, for me, I guess I got to be the lone wolf.
They love corn.
No
they
question.
Love corn.
And with that being said, give me the Cornhuskers. There's something about seeing a coach get fired that gets everyone that's associated with that program going in a different direction. I think we will see a sense of urgency from the Cornhuskers, and something about this line, guys, that made me really feel some type of way. I felt like seeing how inconsistent Nebraska has been, not just this year, but just going back to last year, some of the disappointing losses. You would think with the expectations for Oklahoma, this line might be larger than 11, but it's only 11, Dennis. There's something about that, and I know those people out in Vegas, they're very, very slick. They want everybody to jump on Oklahoma. I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna stand by myself. And a few thousand people out there in Lincoln that believe in me. I think we might see some inspired play, to say the least, that can be able to cover this 11. So I got my ticket in. Nothing you guys can do to convince me otherwise. I already put my ticket in.
Dennis, final word.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a sellout effort. And I don't talk about the fans. I'm thinking emotionally. A sellout effort by Nebraska for at least this game. I agree with BMAC. I'd stay away from the game, frankly. I think it's going to be the under, and I think it may be under the 11. But I told you who I think is going to win. The other thing we haven't touched on is Mickey Joseph, the interim coach. He wants this job, guys, really, really, really bad. He was the associate head coach. He is the wide receivers coach. He's responsible for assembling that receiver group at LSU in 2019, which has been called the greatest of all time, Lamar Chase, etc. He really wants this job. I think he'd have to go 8-4 or something, not even a bowl game, something more than that to be considered for the head job. Number one, because I think Nebraska needs to hire a sitting head coach. Number two, he's never been a coordinator. So, but I would look for that effort tomorrow from Nebraska. It's going to be entertaining.
Dennis Dodd, appreciate you as always, my friend. Whatever happens in that game, I promise you Sunday night on Late Kick, we'll have a lot to talk about there. Sunday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right there on the Late Kick YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.